Welcome to the deep dive. Look, we're skipping the usual wind-up today because, well, something pretty major just landed.
Yeah, landed is the right word, like a geopolitical thunderclap.
Exactly. We're talking about the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize announcement. And it wasn't just news, it instantly became something much more complicated.
A real high-stakes moment. The winner, Maria Corina Machado, the Iron Lady of Venezuela's opposition.
Right.
She didn't just give a thank you speech. She turned that Oslo spotlight directly onto Washington, D.C.
A direct call for help, essentially, aimed squarely at U.S. President Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Our sources were calling it less an award for peace and more a geopolitical shout-out almost immediately.
Which is fascinating. She tied her fight, a very dangerous internal struggle against Maduro, to one specific global leader.
A calculated move, no doubt.
Yeah.
Using that moral authority from the Nobel, weaponizing it, you could say.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We need to unpack this, understand Machado, why she won, that dramatic appeal.
The immediate fireworks from the White House.
And also the pushback, the global criticism that erupted, raising big questions about, what the Peace Prize even means today.
Okay, so to really get the weight of this Nobel, you have to start with Machado herself. Decades of pressure.
She's this unyielding voice, right? The core of the Democratic opposition there for so long.
Absolutely. Facing constant threats, banned from office, forced underground sometimes just to keep things going.
And the Nobel Committee, they clearly saw that. Their rationale mentioned her tireless work promoting democratic rights.
And pushing for a just and peaceful transition, crucially, from dictatorship to democracy.
They really highlighted her decision to stay in Venezuela, didn't they? Despite the danger.
They did, calling it a gutsy choice that inspired millions. And you have to understand what she's up against.
President Nicolas Maduro's rule, it's been, over a decade now?
Iron-fisted is the term often used. The economy, the political system. It feels totally rigged. Elections,
like rigged poker games, as one source put it, which brings us to that 2024 presidential election attempt.
Right, July 28th, 2024. A huge point of contention. Machado herself was barred, but she was the driving force behind the opposition coalition.
They rallied around Edmundo González Urrutia.
And their internal counts, the opposition's tallies, they showed a massive win for Urrutia. A landslide, really.
But that's not what happened officially.
No. The state machine stepped in. Maduro just declared himself the winner. Basically ignored the opposition's figures.
A complete dismissal of the vote, essentially.
Exactly. And that lit the fuse. Protests just exploded across Venezuela.
And Machado was right there, wasn't she, leading from the front?
She was. August 28th, 2024, less than a month later, she joins the huge protests in Caracas.
Not just symbolically.
No, physically there.
Yeah.
Publicly holding documents, evidence of the alleged fraud, making a very visible stand.
A former lawmaker leading a banned movement right out in the open, that takes guts.
Absolutely. And it got international attention, which was surely part of the point.
So she gets this incredible global recognition, the Nobel, for that fight, that defiance, and then comes the pivot.
The moment that really stunned people. October 10th, 2025. Her first words after the win, posted on X.
It started conventionally enough, dedicating the prize to the suffering people of Venezuela.
Very gracious, yes. But then came the kicker. The direct linkage to U.S. politics. I think we should read the exact words.
Okay.
She said, "We are on the threshold of victory, and today, more than ever, we count on President Trump, the people of the United States, the peoples of Latin America, and the democratic nations of the world as our principal allies to achieve freedom and democracy."
Wow. President Trump right at the top of that list. That's incredibly specific.
Highly strategic. Why single him out like that, potentially alienating others?
So what's the thinking there?
Well, from her perspective, it seems pragmatic. The toughest actions against Maduro, the sanctions, the strong rhetoric, came during Trump's previous term.
Right.
She likely sees that history, that specific antagonism towards Maduro from Trump, as her best bet. Her ace in the hole, perhaps.
Prioritizing immediate leverage over, say, diplomatic niceties or broader consensus building.
Exactly. It's a gamble, betting on that specific relationship for tangible action.
And how did that land in Washington? You mentioned fireworks.
Oh, it was instant. The White House communications director, Stephen Chung, jumped straight onto X.
What did he say?
His post read, "The Nobel Committee proved they place politics over peace." Which, interesting framing.
How so?
Well, it criticizes the Nobel Committee, sure.
Right.
But it also sort of implicitly accepts the premise that this is about politics
Yeah.
and potentially allows the White House to claim credit if they do decide to act more forcefully on Venezuela later.
And the timing, too. Trump had just been talking up his peacemaking credentials, hadn't he?
The day before, yeah. Boasting about ending wars, brokering a Gaza ceasefire phase, mentioning the Abraham Accords, Ukraine,
Hmm.
positioning himself as this major global deal maker.
So Machado's appeal kind of lands right in the middle of that narrative he's building.
Perfectly. It gives him this huge public validation, a Nobel laureate, a celebrated freedom fighter, directly asking for his help. It's political gold for his image.
So the synergy is there. She needs leverage. He wants the image of the indispensable global leader.
Even if it causes immediate ripples and criticism elsewhere.
Which brings us to that criticism, because, as you said, not everyone was celebrating this award.
No, far from it. The backlash was swift and sharp, really questioning if this award aligned with the idea of peace.
Let's dig into that. Our sources point to two main areas of controversy around Machado herself.
The first is her perceived openness, at least historically, to the idea of military intervention to remove Maduro. That obviously clashes with the peaceful transition ideal for many.
And the second?
Her relationship with Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu is quite public. She signed a pact with his Likud party back in 2020.
And she's been vocal about supporting Israel's actions in Gaza.
Full-throated support, yes. And that drew immediate fire, particularly from Middle Eastern commentators.
Like who?
Dima Khatib from Al Jazeera, for instance. She stated flatly that Machado fully supports Netanyahu's war on Gaza and would likely restore diplomatic ties between Venezuela and Israel if she ever gained power.
That's a strong claim.
And the criticism wasn't just about Israel-Palestine. It was also about her broader political alignments.
What do you mean?
Alonso Garmendi, a human rights fellow at LSE, pointed out her support for figures like Trump in the U.S. and Bolsonaro in Brazil.
Right-wing, controversial leaders.
Exactly. Garmendi argued that while she's key to the opposition, he wouldn't call her an extinguisher of regional anti-democratic darkness. The implication being she aligns with figures who are themselves seen as problematic for democracy by some.
So the critique is that her version of democracy is too tied to specific polarizing ideologies.
That seems to be the core of it for some critics. But maybe the harshest take came from Fatima Bhutto, the Pakistani writer.
What was her view?
She called the prize utterly worthless, just flat out.
Why? What was her reasoning?
Her argument was broader, more ideological. She said the prize, in this case, simply rewards the foot soldiers of Western imperial politics. Full stop.
Wow. So framing Machado not as a purely independent freedom fighter, but as someone aligned with and rewarded by Western interventionist interests.
Precisely. It reframes the entire award through that lens.
And this connects to another point that was raised about who doesn't get the prize, right?
Yes. The observation was made, quite pointedly, that this is the second year running where people mention the incredible bravery of medics and journalists in Gaza.
The unsung heroes working under fire.
But they weren't the ones on the podium in Oslo. The argument from critics is that the prize seems to favor opposition that aligns with certain Western geopolitical views, rather than perhaps recognizing peace efforts or bravery more broadly.
It really throws into question what peace means in the context of this award, doesn't it? Is it nonviolence above all? Or is it achieving regime change against a dictator, maybe using whatever alliances are necessary?
That's the fundamental split, I think. A deep global division on the definition.
Okay, let's pull this back to Venezuela itself, to the millions suffering through the humanitarian crisis. What does all this mean for them, this Nobel, the controversy?
Well, on one hand, the Nobel is undeniably rocket fuel, as you said earlier. It shines a massive global spotlight on Maduro's regime and the suffering. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it happened, the direct appeal to Trump, the specific political alignments, the resulting criticisms, it risks fracturing that international focus.
How so?
If global actors start seeing Machado primarily as a proxy for Trump or for specific hardline policies, it could undermine broader multilateral efforts to pressure Maduro or find a negotiated solution. Unity is key, and this might splinter it.
So it raises these huge unanswered questions. Will this Nobel spotlight actually help bring about change in Venezuela?
Or will the political fallout actually hinder progress? Will powers like the U.S., maybe spurred by Trump's involvement now, actually tighten sanctions effectively? Or could it even, perhaps counterintuitively, open doors for serious talks?
And what does this whole episode tell us, more broadly, about how you challenge authoritarian regimes today?
That's maybe the biggest question. Machado's strategy suggests that maybe moral authority, even Nobel-level authority, isn't enough on its own anymore.
What do you mean?
It suggests that perhaps achieving freedom now requires making these very explicit, potentially risky alliances with powerful, maybe even polarizing global figures, accepting the political baggage that comes with it.
It's a stark calculation.
It really is.
So summing up, what we've seen here is this incredible convergence, a desperate internal fight for democracy in Venezuela,
Suddenly colliding with global celebrity, the Nobel stage, and high-stakes Washington politics.
all triggered by Machado using that Peace Prize not just as an honor, but as, well, a political tool.
A direct, explicit demand for intervention aimed at one specific leader. It kind of forces you to ask where the real power lies. Is it in the prize itself, or in the political capital you can leverage with the prize?
And what does it say about an award meant for peace when its recipient's defining first move is this kind of direct political appeal for intervention? It's something to really chew on, isn't it? How freedom is pursued and perhaps won in our current world. Something for you, our listeners, to keep thinking about as this story continues to unfold.